Class, welcome to week 10 for WorldCiv. We are definitely getting close to the end. I'm finishing up today on grading the exams. Most of you did well. There was a challenge still on the ancient Israel to Judaism discussion. I didn't grade too hardly, but some of you lost a little bit of points. And then I hope I have been sending you a kind of explanation to many of you that kind of summarizes it. It was a little bit challenging, I realize. And it's actually not a topic or even a question that would be asked very often. I really just wanted to kind of stress this emphasis on the difference between ancient Israel and Judaism and its evolution. Because it's also what I want you to always realize is that over time, even if things do have a sort of continuum, there's also a lot of changes that take place due to historical circumstances. In a sense, I'm giving you an oversimplification even of what I was kind of trying to make as a point to you, because different pockets of time generated different sets of issues, okay? And things that would shift the evolution, if you will, of of this topic. Actually, I have a few books I want to quickly show you because so many of you expressed interest in this topic. I think I actually had it in one of my lectures, but I want to grab it one more time. So, if you want to really take a look at a book, again, I think I did actually post this in one of my lectures, but I want to really stress the significance of this book. It's Imperialism in Jewish Society, 200 BCE to 640 CE by Seth Schultz. And I had this textbook I studied in my ancient Israel class at UC Santa Cruz. This really is a book that really kind of opened my eyes to the idea of how imperial politics of outside forces can actually possibly shape indigenous cultures. And I don't know, it's a very fascinating set of theories. I don't know, I'm not an expert on this particular set of time periods, and I'm not sure about like what new debates have been taking place over the work, but it gets you kind of thinking in a certain direction. So it's interesting, it won a lot of awards at the time. I wanted to mention there are these art scroll books. I have this Torah. You can get the Talmud and you can get prayer books. This is the first 5 books of the Bible. But for those of you who are interested in studying the subject, it's not cheap, the stone edition, but it has commentaries. It has the Hebrew and the English in it. And it gives commentaries of Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. It's also mentioned it's the Chumash, the 5 books, right? The Torah, the Pentateuch, different names. First 5 books of the Bible. It has commentaries from an Orthodox Jewish perspective. And for those of you who grew up in a Christian household, you'd at least find it interesting in a way to kind of see, without having to study the Talmud, certain kind of traditional views that they had about scriptures that you might be familiar with but never would have saw them in that light. And so I just think you might find that interesting. Plus, well, this particular edition, you can see it, it's just beautifully made. It's kind of artistic in itself, so it's called an art scroll. I think it's like $50 or something like that. There's this book, Every Man's Talmud, Abraham Cohen. You'll notice every man, doesn't say every person. Well, there's a reason. This is an older compilation of the Talmud. Women were not allowed to read the Talmud. That was originally how it go. And so male patriarchy shows up everywhere, right? And that's a real thing. It's not like a subtle thing. And you can actually read about that, the role of men and women and the gender ideas of the Talmud in this. So whatever you think about that, that's there. This is a good compilation, thematic, by subjects. Okay. And if you're just curious, if you like to be extra scholarly, if you want to really delve into this, there's this guy named Satya Galen. He was a major scholar of the Iraqi Jewish community, also known as the Babylonian Jewish community. Eventually he wrote an Arabic translation of the Torah. This is his philosophical debates with the Karaites. So he has like an inner Jewish debate, and he also discusses some strong ideas about passages of the Bible that are. He also has debates with Christians in this as well. And it's like a 10th century rabbi, and it's just interesting, like early medieval texts translated. If you get anything by Maimonides as well, Guide to the Perplexed is also interesting. Actually, sorry. So this is also, he's very influential. He used Aristotle. I talked about him in some of my lectures. These books you can get for relatively cheap. These two, okay, the Satya Galen and the Moses Maimonides. Then, if you wanted just to know a lot about Jewish history, and a book that was very important to Christians, actually many Christians in America had this. Some almost argued it was like an extension of the Bible to many Christians, and now it's used by many nationalists, Jews in Israel for different sets of reasons, and that can be, well, that's a whole other set of topics. The bottom line is, a lot of people work with Josephus. He's really the only source that covers the time period that Jesus is associated with, on the assumption that Jesus is an actual historical person, and just prior to the destruction of Jerusalem. He's a very complicated character as well. So this is very interesting. Last bit, also, there is a text called Under Crescent Across. There's an updated version I don't have. The Jews of the Middle Ages, under Muslims, and then under Christians. He does a really thorough discussion about the wide range of discussions on this, but really ultimately shows that Jews had a much better life consistently throughout the centuries under Muslim rule than Christian rule. And that's maybe something very counterintuitive to a lot of you who look at politics now. So I think that would just be something of interest to you. Not very large and a very easy read, I think. Well, relatively, if you've got some grounded knowledge in this topic. So, you don't have time probably in the middle of studying right now to look these things up, but since, like I said, since so many of you have an interest, showed a lot of interest in the topics, I just thought, well, here's some recommendations, okay? And if you have any other questions about anything, just let me know. Peace be upon you all, and have a great week.